Hey guys, welcome back to my another video. This video is going to be about the custom validations that what we're gonna create on the form in the React applications. If you guys check my previous video, I'm gonna put the link down below. That video is going to be about the form with what we created, and when we submit it, it's going to post on the Discord server. And this is how it really works. And I have created on that video is all the way from scratch, so you guys can check it if you guys want to know how this has been created. But on this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a validation on that same form. So in this video, I'm going to go for a high level design, how this has been created. But if you guys want to know how it's created from scratch, then please check that video. So now let me put that a name here and the email address, something called test, and the message is here. So when I click it, then it's going to submit in our Discord here, but it doesn't do any validations. If I put like send, then it's going to send an empty message. So we're gonna create a custom validations on this video. So now let's see how this is really built and it's working right now. So here what we have is we have the app.js and we are using a bootstrap. I'm just going to go for like a high level. So it is a using a bootstrap here. So now let's see what we have it here. The first thing what we have is I'm going to make this a little bigger and show you guys here. We have a link that is coming from the bootstrap, and we are creating everything in app.js. We are not creating any other component. I think it's better to create other component, but we just create it for just for this tutorial. So what we have here, we have an initial form state, and this is what we have. We have a data, name, email, and message, which is an initial form state, and we are binding this initial form state to a use state of the React applications here. So what we have a data, name, email, and message, and error, we don't have anything at this point. So what we have here is a form and set form data. And we have two functions here. Set dynamic form data basically is putting a name and value, and in a set basically it's setting name and value, and it's setting the set form data based on the name and value it's provided. It's setting on a data field, and name is dynamically added here as a key property in our state. So here it's dynamically added as a key, and we are adding as a value, and here we are mutating the rest of this object property from the our original state called form data dot data, because what we are getting is form data is right here, and here in the error we don't have anything. So this is the custom set dynamic form data. And we have another called post to Discord. So basically it's getting the data from form data, and it's mapping it and creating as a string, and concatenate with escape sequences by the line. So now it's submitting, sending or using called Discord service, what we have it here. So in a directly jumping on the form here, so what we have in the form, we have on the input field right here. Whenever it changes, then basically it's going to call the dynamic form data that what we created. And also for another one what we have in the email, it's when it changes it's called the same one, and it's doing the same thing for matches as well. And one more thing what we have it here is a value. The value what we provided is from message here, and here is the email and the name. And this name here, input name, is very important because we are getting as a name, so we will know that what is the targeted name that is setting in a set dynamic form data, because here we are putting here dynamic name, and we need to we must have a name here. So that's why we put our name here as a name, here name is an email, and here name is a message. And when we submit it, the form will submit using on submit functions right here, and using a Discord service it's going to post it. In Discord service is created right here, and it is posting right here. So it's calling the Axios post with a body. Here in the body we get a data, and we are posting directly here. And after posting we also send something called set form data here, and here we are putting an initial state. So when the data is submitted, then the form will also make it as a blank. So this is the quickly run through of what we built on the last video. So let's jump to the validations here. So on the validation, the first thing what we're gonna do is we gonna create a new folder here called hook. So we're gonna create a custom hook, so which is going to be our form, useForm.js. So now let me quickly create a component using our RCEP Not this one, sorry, this is the old one, not the old, the class based, I would say. Okay, so this is a function based right here. So this is our use form component or a hook. That's what we're gonna create it here. So here what we need, the first thing is we will use state from React, and on use state, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in our app.js. I'm gonna make this a little bigger, and I will copy this use state from app, and I will paste it here, and this is going to be our use state here. And here what we're gonna get is a props, and I will pass this props here. So we have a form data right here and a use form, so we don't need to use it now here because we are using our use form here. So in a use form, basically now it need a prop, that what we provided, which is going to be our initial state, and now it's going to return couple of the functions or the state, but we don't know now because we haven't returned anything at this point here. So what we're gonna return a couple of things here. The first thing we're gonna return this of form data because we need to provide here the form data. The second one is we're gonna copy this set dynamic form data which we created before, and we will put it here inside it, and instead of set form data we will return the set dynamic form data here. So what we need is, we don't need now anymore here, we will use here as set form dynamic data. So now let's see, everything is fine using this use form, and let's see that how it's working or not. Okay, it has complaining that set form data is not defined on app.js form. So where is the set form data? Oh yes, it is, because when we submitted the Discord service, then we are sending the set form data because we are cleaning up the method here. So instead of sending off this, what we're gonna do, probably we're gonna create another functions here, something called clear form. So this will clear our form here. So basically what we're gonna do is on set form data right here, and we have our initial state already, which is going to be the props here, and this is going to be our setting our initial props here. So we're gonna send the clear form here. So here now we will get as a clear form, and instead of sending the set form data in Discord service, we are sending something called clear form here. So if you go in Discord service here, so here what we get, clear form, and here we don't need to do this, we just need to do a clear form, that's all about it. And we don't even need this our initial form here. So now let's see it is working as is expected now or not. If I do test it here, test, let me see here also in Discord submit. Yes, it is working exactly like before, there is a no error. If I check the in console here, we will not see any error, so which is working perfectly fine. So now let's go jump to the code and let's write some validation stuff. So now what we have is we have our use form, which is perfectly fine. So now let's go in app.js here. So what we're gonna do, the first thing is we're gonna go in a form, and we're gonna create here something called validate. So in validate, so basically the validate will also receive the name and value here, and when it's received the name and value, so the first thing what I'm going to create is the another object here, something called error. Okay, so something called error here, and we're gonna check if there is a value is empty. We can also check that the name here value is empty and the name is or mass email, right? We can check like this. If it's email, then we will only do a validations on email part. We can do that if we like it, but we're gonna put a require for everybody. So for that one, the value, if the value is null, then what we're gonna do on error of what value is required, error of the name property here. So error of a name property, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create the name which is provided here is require. So what happens if the value is already provided, then there is no need of validation, but we need to know for which property there is no need for validations. So we need to provide here as a key here for error as well, and we're gonna return this error. So now next step is where we're gonna trigger this is need to be triggered on change event, right? On change we're gonna make sure that the value is required, but onChange is also triggering here in set dynamic form, All right, whenever we do unchange here, on change here is calling something called set dynamic form, which is what we have it here. So on set dynamic form, basically we're gonna call this valid inside the form data here. So on the error part, what we're gonna do now is basically we're gonna copy everything that is provided in a form data. We're gonna basically mutating here using, and on the next one, we're gonna use a spread operator and validate the name and value. So whenever this will be changed, the validate should work now. So now let's go back and print that whole object, which is going to be our form data, because we want to make sure in our form data now the error here we need to show some message here. So now if I go it here, here is an error what we have it, and if I put it here it shows up. Now if I delete, now it says the name is required. So same thing for email. If I remove and if I delete, then the email is required and name is also required. But if I put a name, now the name is not required but email is here. Same with the message here. Now the message is required. So whenever we change the values here, the error will appear now. So now we need to provide the alert message here on the bottom. So that's what we're gonna do next. So what we're gonna do now is here is the our input field. On the bottom of the input field, we're gonna check that if the form data error, right, it has an error and error has a name. If it has a value, then we're gonna return here the bootstrap alert. So if I created here the div with the div and provide some class name here, let me provide some class name here. Is alert, basically alert and danger, that what is going to be, and what is the alert message is going to be. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it here instead of a error, and it's going to be name. Basically it's going to be a name here, that if there is a values then we're gonna print it out. So now if I check it, if I clear it, here it is, the name is required. That is going to clear. I'm gonna give some padding at the bottom on the y-axis here. Okay, that's what we see now. So we're gonna use exact same for the email and message as well. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it here for email. So I'm gonna change this to this email here, email, and I'm gonna do exact same thing for our text message, which is going to be our message here. So now let's see how it really works. So if I add something here, name is required. If I add something, then email is required. Add something, then message is required. If I add it, then validation is gone, right? That's what we really did it. Now we need to make it disable this one as well. What we're gonna do next. So now let's talk about the disable part. For that one, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on useForm hook here, and here what we're gonna do, the first thing is we're gonna create something called is valid. So we're gonna check if it's valid or not. So the first thing what we're gonna check, that if the object increase of our form data and dot error, because in our form data dot error has of values. You know what, instead of interest, get values is better because we are only interested in values. So if there is a value that is coming on every, so we're going to use something called every. If every of this, if the value is equal to empty, then we're gonna make sure that is valid here. So for that one, we're gonna return is valid here, and we will get that is valid on our use form, basically right here. So is valid, I'll just go all the way down here, and here on the bottom, what we're gonna do is disable is we're gonna use is valid false here. So now what we're gonna do, if I refresh, as we know is not disabled yet for now. So if I put it all these values, then it's available, but if there is any of this value is required, then it's disabled. So now there is a problem when we refresh, it's not disabled. If we want to make this disable and we know that this all field need to be required, then what we can do is here we can create another validation. Is basically we're gonna check that if the keys of error. If we know that the empty state of the error is empty, there is no property here, so we need to make sure there is a tree property because user is going to change the data here. So we know that there will be a tree property. We can check that. Here what we're gonna do is on form data error we are getting the keys, and we're gonna check the length. Basically it's going to be a 3. If this is the key of threes is equal to the keys of the data, which is going to be a 3, then we're gonna make sure is valid is true. So now when I refresh it's valid if false, and if I change all of this is required, and if I didn't do it and it's not required. So on this validation, basically we are only checking is required here, but we can check more values here. If it's required, then we're going to check here. Otherwise, else if, and then we can create another validations here as well by checking the name here, because in the name we will know that it's going to be our email or message, and in the values we can check if it's email or not and provide the error here. Okay, so that's all for this video guys, and thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.